The bridge of the massive alien warship glowed red like the inside of a furnace. Commander Velthok stood before the main screen, scaled hands gripping the metal rail as he studied the reports flowing in from across the galaxy. 4,300 years, the Pyrathi Empire had ruled every star system they could reach. Their ships burned bright with stolen fire from dead suns, and their weapons could turn entire worlds into glass. But something was wrong, something that made Velthok's blood run cold despite the heat that surrounded him. "Sir, the creatures on that small blue planet have built machines that can travel faster than light," his officer reported, fear creeping into his voice. "They call their world Earth." Velthok moved closer to the display. The third planet in the Sol system looked harmless enough. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown land masses. Just another primitive world that should bow down to Pyrathi might. But the numbers told a different story. These humans had gone from discovering electricity to splitting atoms in less than 200 years, had built computers, rockets, and fusion reactors in the blink of an eye compared to other species. Most races took thousands of years to achieve what humans had done in mere decades. On Earth, far below the bustling streets of Sol, Admiral Kim walked through corridors carved deep into solid rock. The walls hummed with the power of quantum computers that never stopped working. These machines listened to every signal that came from the stars. Translating alien languages and learning their secrets, Kim stopped at a massive screen that showed the solar system. Red dots marked where human ships waited in the darkness between planets. For 15 years, Earth had been preparing for this moment. Ever since Dr. Park had picked up the first alien messages at the observatory on Jeju Island, humanity had known they were not alone. The aliens out there ruled through fear and superior weapons. Their messages spoke of worlds burned to ash, of species that had tried to resist and failed. The galaxy was controlled by fire, and Earth needed to master that fire, or become another pile of cooling cinders. "Admiral, our deep space sensors are picking up massive energy readings," Lieutenant Lee called out from her station. Her young face was calm, but Kim could see the tension in her shoulders. "The patterns match what we've been expecting." Kim nodded. Out. The war rooms beneath major cities around the world were filled with Earth's best minds. 8. Scientists like Dr. Choi had spent years studying every piece of alien technology they could get their hands on. Engineers like Commander Han had designed weapons that existed only in classified files. Waiting for the day they would be needed, the Pyrathi had no idea what they were flying toward. In their arrogance, they saw Earth as just another weak planet full of creatures that would surrender at the first sign of superior force. They had conquered so many worlds that victory had become routine. Velthok reviewed the intelligence reports one more time. The humans had unified their entire planet under a single government, something most species never achieved. They had hidden weapons throughout their solar system and built ships designed not for exploration, but for war, their communication. Networks were encrypted with mathematics so complex that Pyrathi codebreakers had given up trying to understand them. "Prepare the intimidation fleet," Velthok ordered, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. "Standard protocols. Show them our fire, demand their surrender, and add another world to the Empire." His officers moved to carry out the command. But Velthok remained at the screen, staring at that small blue dot. Something about the humans bothered him in ways he could not explain. They were different from the other species the Pyrathi had conquered. Other races had been content to develop slowly, building art and philosophy while their technology advanced at a comfortable pace. Humans were different. They seemed to be in a hurry, as if they knew something was coming and were racing to prepare for it. Their rapid advancement was not random or chaotic. It was focused, purposeful, directed toward a single goal: survival. Back on Earth, Kim received word that the alien fleet was moving toward their system. He activated communication channels that connected him to command centers on every continent. Faces appeared on his screen: generals, scientists, engineers, and politicians who had worked together for over a decade to prepare for this moment. "It begins," Kim said simply, and across the world, humanity moved into position for the fight of their lives. The Pyrathi thought. They were bringing fire to another helpless world. They had no idea that Earth had been forging itself into a weapon that would burn back 10 times hotter. The age of easy conquests was about to end. The galaxy would never be the same. In the depths of space, the forces moved toward each other, one confident in its power, the other desperate to survive. The collision would shake the foundations of an empire that had stood for centuries. The Pirathi fleet dropped out of hyperspace, like falling stars, their ships wreathed in flames that could melt asteroids. Admiral June stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on his screen. He had done this same dance hundreds of times before. Show overwhelming force, broadcast demands for surrender. Watch the primitive aliens panic and submit, but Earth was silent. June frowned as his communication officer tried again and again to reach the planet's leaders. Every other species had immediately responded with pleas for mercy or desperate attempts at negotiation. The humans said nothing at all. Perhaps they are too frightened to speak, suggested his tactical officer, but even he sounded uncertain. Meanwhile, Captain Min sat in the command chair of the Earthship Inchin, hidden behind one of Jupiter's larger moons. Her crew had trained for this moment in secret facilities scattered across the solar system. They knew every detail of Pyrothi ship design, every weakness in their formations, every arrogant assumption the aliens made about inferior species. All stations report ready, her weapons officer whispered. Around the solar system, dozens of human ships waited in the shadows. They were not the crude vessels the Pirathi expected. These were predators built for one purpose: to kill aliens who thought they owned the galaxy. Admiral June grew impatient. He activated his ship's external speakers, broadcasting his demands in the universal trade language most species understood. His voice boomed across space, carrying the weight of 3 centuries of conquest. Primitive creatures of Earth, you will surrender immediately. Your world now belongs to the Pyrothi Empire. Resist, and we will turn your planet into molten glass. You have 1 hour to respond. The response came 30 seconds later. The first kinetic projectile hit June's lead cruiser at 90% the speed of light. The chunk of tungsten, no bigger than a trash can, punched through the ship's shields as if they were made of paper. The cruiser simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the impact. Impossible. June roared as his tactical display lit up with incoming threats. More relativistic projectiles streaked in from multiple directions, followed by nuclear missiles that moved in patterns too complex for his computers to predict. The humans had been watching and learning. Every Pirathi broadcast had been analyzed, every tactical doctrine studied and memorized. Earth's war planners knew exactly how the aliens would position their ships and how they would respond to attack. Dr. Nam monitored the battle from deep. Inside Earth's command bunker, the screens around him showed the engagement from every angle. As human forces emerged from hiding spots throughout the solar system, behind the moon, near the asteroid belt, in the shadows of gas giant planets, human ships peered like wolves surrounding their prey. The Pirathi fought with honor and by the rules of civilized warfare. They formed battle lines, targeted military vessels, and followed tactical doctrines that had served them well for centuries. Humans fought to win. Captain Min's ship launched a spread of missiles that looked like a standard attack pattern. But when the Pyrothi moved to intercept them, the missiles suddenly changed course and slammed into 3 different ships at once. The humans had programmed their weapons to think and adapt during flight. Fire pattern 7, Min ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos around her. Nuclear warheads erupted against Pirothi's shields while laser arrays carved through their armor. But the real damage came from weapons the aliens had never seen before, devices that turned their own. Plasma fire back against them. The Pirathi had energy shields designed to stop energy weapons. They had never faced an enemy that could grab their plasma bolts and redirect them. Human ships absorbed the alien fire and spat it back twice as strong. Admiral June watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by tactics no civilized species would use. The humans rammed damaged ships into healthy ones. They sent false surrender signals to lure Pyrothi vessels into traps. They used nuclear weapons, not just as explosives, but as sources of electromagnetic pulse that crippled alien electronics. They fight like animals, His tactical officer gasped as another piracy ship exploded. No, June replied, beginning to understand what they faced. They fight like survivors. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, more than half the Pirathi fleet was destroyed or badly damaged. The humans had lost ships too, but they had proven something that would echo across the galaxy. The mighty Pirathi Empire could be beaten. As the surviving alien ships limped away from Earth, Captain Min stood before her crew. Many of them were young, barely out of training. But they had just accomplished something no other species had managed in 300 years. This is only the beginning, she told them. They will come back with more ships and bigger weapons. But now we know their fire can be beaten. Now we know they can bleed. The news of the battle spread through secret channels to every corner of the galaxy. On worlds that had been conquered generations ago, people looked up at the stars and dared to hope. Somewhere out there, a species called humanity had stood up to the Pirathi and survived. If humans could fight back, maybe others could too. The age of easy conquest was over. Earth had lit a fire that would spread across the galaxy, and the Pirathi Empire would never be the same again. The Pirathi Emperor's rage burned hotter than the core of a dying star. In his throne room, carved from a single piece of crystallized fire, he listened to the reports from the Sol system, and no species had ever defeated a Pirathi fleet. The very idea was impossible. Yet the evidence floated in space around Earth, the wreckage of his ships. "Gather the Grand Armada," he commanded, his voice making the crystal walls vibrate. "Every ship, every weapon, every warrior. We will make an example of these humans that the galaxy will never forget." Grand Admiral Kethfer bowed low. Had served the Empire for over a century, conquering worlds and breaking the spirit of entire species. But even he felt uncertain about what they had learned from the survivors of the Earth battle. "My Emperor, the humans fight unlike any enemy we have faced. They use tactics that civilized species would never consider. Perhaps we should study them more before silence." The Emperor's eyes blazed with fury. "I do not care how they fight. Gather 2,000 ships, burn every human world to ash, let the galaxy see what happens to those who dare resist our rule." The Grand Armada assembled in the void between stars, a sight that had never failed to inspire terror. Ships the size of small moons, bristling with weapons that could crack planets, plasma cannons that fired concentrated starfire, missiles that could punch through the crust of a world and ignite its core. Mars died first, the red planet small. Colonies had been humanity's first step toward the stars. Mining stations, research facilities, and the dreams of a million people who had looked up at the night sky and dared to reach for it. The Pirathi plasma bombardment turned the entire surface into a sea of molten glass. 400,000 humans died in minutes, but the aliens made a mistake. They broadcast the destruction across all frequencies, wanting every species in the galaxy to see what happened to those who defied them. Instead of breaking human spirit, the images of Mars burning only made them more determined. Deep beneath Earth's surface, Dr. Song worked in laboratories that had been carved from solid rock. Around her, the greatest minds of humanity studied pieces of Pirathi technology recovered from the first battle. What they discovered changed everything. "The plasma containment systems have a fatal flaw," she explained to her team of scientists. Her hands shook as she pointed to the holographic display showing alien weapon designs. "They use a harmonic frequency to keep the plasma stable. If we can match that frequency and reverse it," Engineer Yoon looked up from his calculations, "we can make their own weapons explode in their hands." Europa was next. The ice moon had been home to research stations studying life in the deep oceans beneath the frozen surface. The Pirathi turned the ice into steam and the oceans into vapor that drifted away into space. Another 100,000 humans gone. But with each atrocity, something unexpected happened. The humans did not surrender. They did not break. They adapted. Captain Shin led the refugee fleets deeper into space, carrying survivors to hidden bases in asteroid fields and dead solar systems. Each ship was packed with more than just people. They carried knowledge, weapon designs, and most importantly, proof that the Pirathi could be hurt. The aliens had expected their overwhelming show of force to crush human resistance. Instead, it spread like wildfire through the galaxy. On worlds that had been conquered centuries ago, people gathered in secret to listen to broadcasts from the human underground. "The Piracy burn our worlds," the messages said in dozens of languages. "But we have learned to burn them back, have their technology, know their weaknesses. Join us, and together we can be free." Titan fell next, its methane seas boiling away into the void. The Piracy had perfected the art of turning worlds into funeral pyres. But they had never faced an enemy that grew stronger with each defeat. In the hidden laboratories, Dr. Song's team worked around the clock. They had cracked the secret of Piracy plasma technology and found ways to improve it. Human engineering, combined with alien science, created weapons that neither species could have built alone. The breakthrough came when they realized that Piracy had been using the same basic technology for centuries. They had grown comfortable with their superiority, never innovating or adapting. Humans had been forced to evolve or die. Commander Park led the first test of the new hybrid weapons. A single human ship, barely larger than a fighter, engaged a Piracy cruiser near the asteroid belt. The alien captain must have laughed at the tiny vessel approaching his mighty warship. The laughter stopped when the human ship's weapons tore through his shields like they were made of paper. Plasma fire that should have been impossible for such. A small vessel carved the cruiser in half. The wreckage tumbled through space, sending a message that would reach every corner of the galaxy. The humans had not just survived the furnace, they had learned to build better fire. As news of the engagement spread, something stirred in the depths of space. Ancient species that had been crushed by Piracy might begin to remember what freedom felt like. Hidden resistance cells activated communication networks that had been silent for generations. The Empire had lit a fire across human worlds, thinking it would end the rebellion. Instead, they had forged humanity into a weapon that would burn down everything they had built. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of the massive space station, hidden in the shadow of a dead star. Around him stretched the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen, not just human ships, but vessels from dozens of species that had suffered under Piracy rule for centuries. The Zenthari had brought their sleek silver ships that could phase through solid matter. The aquatic Merlins contributed vessels that moved like living creatures through space. The crystalline Vorthok offered ships that could absorb energy attacks and fire them back stronger, all united by one purpose: freedom from the Empire that had burned their worlds. "Today we take back the galaxy," Kim announced, his words carried to every ship in the vast armada. The translation devices built into each vessel turned his message into hundreds of languages, but the meaning was the same in all of them. The humans had done something that Piracy never expected. They had shared their stolen fire freely with anyone willing to fight. While the Empire hoarded their technology and kept their subject species weak, humanity had made allies by making them stronger. Dr. Lim's voice crackled over the communication system from her hidden laboratory. "Admiral, the cyber warfare virus is ready for deployment. Captain Bay's team has found a way to turn the Piracy communication network against them." Kim smiled grimly. The young captain had spent months studying captured Piracy computer systems. She had discovered that the aliens used the same communication protocols across their entire empire, a system designed for control. It's not security, Commander. Park led the first wave of ships toward the Piracy fortress world of Kepler 4 to be. Her mixed fleet of human and alien vessels moved with precision, learned from years of guerrilla warfare. They struck at weak points and vanished before the enemy could respond, hitting supply lines and communication relays. The Piracy defenders had never faced an enemy like this. Their tactics were built around overwhelming force and direct confrontation. They did not know how to fight ghosts that appeared from nowhere, struck hard, and disappeared back into the void. Grand Admiral Kethfer watched his carefully planned defenses crumble as the Rebel Alliance used strategies that made no sense according to civilized warfare. Enemy ships would attack in small groups, then retreat when reinforcements arrived. They hit undefended targets while avoiding major battles, They spread confusion and fear instead of seeking glorious combat. They fight without honor, his tactical officer complained as another supply convoy was destroyed by raiders who disappeared before help could arrive. They fight to win, Kethver replied, finally understanding what the Empire faced. These rebels had learned from humanity's example. They cared nothing for glory or honor. It's only for results. The hybrid weapons humanity had developed were spreading across the galaxy faster than the Pirathi could respond. Plasma cannons that could adjust their frequency in real time, making energy shields useless. Shield generators that absorbed incoming fire and turned it into offensive power. Most devastating of all, weapons specifically designed to target Pirathi. Technology. Captain Bay's breakthrough came at the perfect moment. She had found a way to inject a virus into the Pirathi command network using their own communication systems. Within hours, Imperial fleets found themselves unable to coordinate their movements. Ships received conflicting orders. Supply lines got tangled, and entire battle groups wandered lost in space. The virus did more than cause confusion. It opened hidden communication channels between conquered worlds, allowing resistance cells to coordinate for the first time in centuries. Planets that had been silent for generations suddenly burst into rebellion. On the water world of Aquatica, the Merlin resistance surfaced from the deep ocean trenches where they had hidden for 200 years, armed with human-designed weapons. Adapted for underwater combat, they struck at Pirathi installations with the fury of a tsunami. The crystal mines of Vorthok Prime erupted in coordinated attacks as the native species used their natural ability to store and redirect energy to turn Pirathi plasma weapons against their own users. The aliens had enslaved the Vorthok to harvest their energy-absorbing crystals, never realizing they were arming their own rebellion in the Zenthari system. Using ships emerged from solid asteroids where they had hidden for decades. Their ability to move through matter made them perfect assassins, striking at the heart of Pirathi command structures before vanishing back into solid rock. Admiral Kim received reports from across the galaxy as the rebellion spread like wildfire. Each victory inspired others to rise up. Each successful attack proved that the mighty Pirathi Empire could be beaten. The aliens had ruled through fear and superior technology. Now they faced enemies who had stolen their advantages and turned them into weapons of liberation. Every plasma cannon built by human-alien cooperation was more advanced than anything the Empire possessed. Every shield generator incorporated innovations that Pirathi scientists had never imagined. But the real weapon was not the technology. It was hope. For the first time in centuries, the conquered species of the galaxy believed they could be free. They had seen humanity stand up to the Empire and survive. They had learned that superior force could be overcome by superior determination. The final battle was approaching. Combined fleets of the liberated galaxy moved toward the Pirathi homeworld, carrying fire stolen from the oppressors and forged into something far more dangerous, the flame of freedom that would burn down an empire built on fear. The ancient world of Pirathi Prime had never known the shadow of enemy ships. For 1,000 years, it had been the burning heart of an empire that stretched across the galaxy. Now, as Admiral Jang looked down at the planet from the bridge of the Soul's Vengeance, she could see the fires that had lit the home of tyrants beginning to dim. The siege had lasted 3 days. Around her, the combined fleets of 50 liberated species moved with purpose that went beyond simple revenge. They were not here to destroy everything like the Pirathi had done to countless worlds. They were here to end an age of darkness. "We're receiving a transmission from the planetary surface," reported her communication officer. "It's from the Pirathi Emperor himself." Zhang nodded. She had been expecting this moment. The alien ruler who had ordered the burning of Mars, Europa, and Titan now faced the same fire he had brought to so many others. The Emperor's image appeared on the main screen, his scaled features twisted with desperation. Behind him, the crystal walls of his throne room were cracked and darkened. The eternal flames that had burned there for centuries were finally going out. "I offer terms of surrender," the Emperor said, his voice no longer carrying the arrogance that had once commanded a galaxy. "We will withdraw from conquered worlds. We will pay tribute. Show mercy to the defeated, as civilized species do. Admiral Kim received the transmission in the command center that had once been hidden beneath Seoul. The irony was not lost on him. The species that had shown no mercy to Earth's colonies now begged for the compassion they had never given. Your terms are simple, Kim replied, his words broadcast to every corner of the former empire. Unconditional surrender. Full reparations to the worlds you have burned. An exile to a single system where you will be watched to ensure you never again mistake power for righteousness. But the real victory was not the fall of the Piracy Empire. It was what humanity chose to build in its place. Dr. Cho stood in the center of the new Galactic Cooperative Council, watching representatives from dozens of species work together for the first time in centuries. The humans could have taken the Pyrothe's place as rulers of the galaxy, but they chose a different path. We share our technology freely, Dr. Cho announced to the assembled delegates. Human innovations combined with the wisdom of ancient species, together we can achieve what no single race could accomplish alone. The Zentheri shared their knowledge of phasing technology, allowing the construction of ships that could travel through solid matter. Merlins contributed their understanding of fluid dynamics, creating new forms of propulsion that moved like living things through space. Dvorthok offered their energy manipulation abilities, leading to power systems that could harness the force of entire stars. Captain Bay, now director of galactic communications, oversaw the creation of a new network that connected every world in the galaxy. Unlike the Piracy system designed for control, this network was built for cooperation. Information flowed freely, allowing scientific discoveries to be shared instantly across thousands of light-years. The former Piracy worlds were not destroyed or enslaved. They were offered a choice: join the Cooperative Council as equals, or remain isolated in their single system. Many chose integration, their people tired of the endless wars their leaders had forced upon the galaxy. On Earth, Professor Yang worked in the deep archives of New Geneva, recording the history of the war that had changed everything. The simple truth that would echo through the ages was already becoming clear when tyrants mistake fear for respect. They always underestimate the species that refuses to kneel. The Piracy had ruled through fire, believing that superior force could crush any resistance. They had conquered worlds by making examples of those who dared to fight back, but they had never faced an enemy that grew stronger with each defeat. Humanity had not just survived the Empire's fire, they had learned to build better flames. The hybrid weapons that combined human innovation with alien technology were now being shared across the galaxy, not as tools of conquest, but as guardians of freedom. The new ships being built in orbital shipyards around Earth and her allies were more than just vessels of war or symbols of cooperation, proof that former enemies could work together toward a common goal. Each ship carried crew members from multiple species, their different abilities combining to create something greater than the sum of their parts. Admiral Zhang walked through the corridors of the research station orbiting Earth, passing laboratories where human scientists worked alongside Zenthari engineers and Vorthok energy specialists. The sound of different languages mixed together there. But the goal was the same in all of them: to build a future where no single species could dominate the galaxy. The age of ruling through fire was over. Humanity had returned the Pyretheus flames tenfold and replaced them with something far more powerful: the light of cooperation and hope. That would guide the galaxy toward a new dawn in the depths of space, where the Piracy Empire had once spread fear and destruction. New colonies were being built, not as conquests, but as partnerships. The galaxy was learning to burn with a different kind of fire, one that created instead of destroyed, that built bridges instead of walls. The humans had kept their promise. They had taken back the galaxy, but they had not taken it for themselves. They had given it back to everyone.